What's happening, my friend Jomo here, and I wanted to shoot a hangout so that I could show you some interesting stuff that I've been working on. Actually did a live hangout earlier this morning. Actually, it's around 8 a.m. I hung out with my friend Jeff around 2 a.m. We did a hangout, and I attempted to upload to my YouTube channel, but apparently my YouTube channel is having some issues and having some trouble uploading it. So I figured, you know what, I'll just shoot a live hangout right now and get some of this information out to the world. Stuff that I'm very passionate about right now. So I hope that you enjoy. Um, what it's called is actually the portal theory, and this is something that I've really noticed through a lot of different experiences in my life. I've had some various experiences that have allowed me to go really deep within myself and also go really deep down different paths of experience and different ways of perceiving the world and different career paths and just in general, just an observation from life really is that we are always focusing on one direction, and the length of time that we spend when we go really deep in one direction actually seems to signify, the deeper that we go down that path and the more focused we are for a consistent period of time, seems to signify that we are further developed and we become more of a master, we become more of an expert in that one field. So I'm just going to screen share real quick so you can see what I got going on right here. So I'm basically going to give you a quick overview of the portal theory in visual form. Hope you can see my screen. So this is the basic concept, is that we decide on a direction that we want to go in. We enter that portal, and then we kind of meander through that portal until something catches our attention over here, and then we go down another portal, and the same scenario, something catches our attention, we go over here to another portal, and we travel through that portal. And that's the basic idea, the basic concept of the portal theory. But now I'm going to show you kind of what going down one particular portal can actually mean. So let's see if I can figure out how to clear this. I'll just do new. So basically, here we have one portal, and for the best use of for the best purpose of this recording, I'm going to say that this is a direction of our biggest, or one of our biggest passions. And why that's significant is the more I saw a Steve Jobs video where he was talking about passion and work, and he basically says that you won't stick with something if you don't have a passion for it. And I completely agree. From my firsthand experience, I've never stuck with something that I haven't had a passion for. I start and stop lots of different projects, and when the passion goes away, that's when I stop. And I really believe that if we lock onto a passion for long enough, that we really can do some major damage, for lack of a better way of saying it. We can really expand our levels of possibility, our levels of consciousness, um, because we're able to kind of go down this path for such a long period of time, such a longer period of time than anyone else, just because we have that passion. So let's just say this is the path. And I want you to kind of extrapolate this right here. Let's say this is like a timeline. So this is, let's say, one day. And let's say this is 1 month. So the concept and the theory that I have is the longer that you spend going down this path, the longer that you spend traveling down this path, and to be honest, it can really look like this. The outside represents the framework of the passion, so the rules of the passion. And as long as you abide by the rules of the passion, you pretty much have the creative ability to go in any direction you want to go in. That's the beauty of it, is within the passion there's lots of room for creativity. And so just coming from a purely observational point of view, observing other people, observing myself, I've experienced what it's like to go, let's just say, 3 days. When I was in Las Vegas a few years ago, after I had been traveling the country, I was road tripping for 5 months. I decided that I was going to make a movie out of the video footage that I had. So I set the intention that I was going to go into a Las Vegas hotel and create a movie. And that is exactly what I did. Now, I had never made a movie before. This was completely new for me. I just thought, I have all this footage. Rather than putting it out online like I normally do, why not make a movie out of it? So I literally locked myself in a hotel room for 3 days, and the result was a movie that I released called Journey of the Heart. If you go online, you can search for it. Search for Journey of the Heart, Jomo. It's actually on this YouTube channel, I believe. But basically, what I ended up doing was allowing myself to be immersed in the process, be fully immersed in the process of creating this movie, and not allowing anything to distract me. And I'm sure you've seen this with, if you've read about various different writers, different authors, they put themselves in, these houses that have no interruption, no distractions, and they crank out a book in a week. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. An entire book. And some people spend years and years and years trying to create a book. And then there are the individuals who decide that they're going to go ham and just go all out and just go into creation mode. And it's very interesting to notice the process of becoming an expert, becoming a master. They say it takes 10,000 hours of doing the same thing over and over in order to become a master, in order to become an expert at your craft. And what I'm very curious about, and what really relates to this entire theory, is what happens if you were to, instead of, they say it takes 10,000 hours or 10 years is the average to become an expert at something. What if you were able to condense that into something like maybe 1 to 2 years, or maybe even less? I don't even know how many hours are in a year, to be honest. So I don't even know if that's possible, but the idea is to condense the amount of time that it takes in order to build up the skills to become an amazing at what you're doing, amazing at your passion. And an idea hit me. It was maybe about a year ago. I started doing these live streams. I started getting in front of a whiteboard and started drawing on the whiteboard and sharing some ideas that I had about sustainability. And I was really inspired. And I felt like, if I just kept doing this every single day, I would perfect this presentation, and I would get to the point where I really, really understood the material, and I really was able to communicate it effectively, and I was able to really help progress these ideas forward because I became so immersed in it, because I would become so immersed in it. And that idea always kind of lingered with me. I never really ran with it, but that idea always lingered with me. And it wasn't until recently that I was reminded of this. And it really came back to this portal theory that I started exploring. And I started realizing that that was me attempting to shortcut the process. And granted, I'm not trying to say that I want to shortcut the process quicker than it's supposed to take. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to make something work that is coming from a place of very forceful action, and because I've noticed through a lot of my experiences that doesn't really work. But rather, I'm talking about, instead of maybe working on your passion 1 to 2 hours a day, like a lot of people do. Some people don't even do it that much. Part-time, let's say. So what if you were working on your passion full-time? And let's say it was maybe 10 to 12 hours a day. And let's take out a calculator real quick. Let me just see how this kind of extrapolates. So let's say 10 hours, 10 hours a day, and we're looking for that 10,000 hours. So 10,000 divided by 10. So that's about 1,000 days. Okay. So 1,000 days. Let's divide that by 365. Sorry. 1,000 divided by 365. All right, so we're looking at about 2.7, just to round up, let's say 3 years. Okay. Now, that seems a little more realistic, right? It seems like it's very, very possible, let's say around 10 hours a day. And that's on average. Some days you can do it for maybe 2 hours. Other days you can do it for 18 hours or 16 hours. I know I've had days where I've just been working on my passions all day long. And that's actually the direction that I really want to head to. So let's just say 3 years is the max. Okay. Just to give a kind of a goal to shoot for. That is very achievable. 3 years max to reach 10,000 hours of working on your craft, especially if you are doing it full time. So now let's put you in a vacuum, okay? Because a lot of times that number gets skewed. The 10,000 hours gets skewed because let me just do I'll open up a new slideshow, or a new diagram. So going back to the 10,000 hours and 3 years. 3 years to do that. Now, let's go to a specific point in time. So let's say today is the 24th. And we're going to go from the 24th to the 30th. And we are going to go ham. And for those of you who don't know what ham means, ham is hard as a mother. And for those of you who have never gone ham in any direction, which is very unlikely because we all have gone ham at some point in our lives. For example, when I was in college, I was very good at putting off papers till the very last minute and somehow coming up with amazing papers with hours to spare. So very last minute procrastinated papers, creating them at the last minute, focusing solely on them for a few hours. And so going back to this, 24th to the 30th, and there have been, I've heard a lot of stories about, artists and musicians, how they've gone into caves. When I say caves, I mean, relative caves, bat caves, where they've literally gone into their studio and sat down and wrote an entire album in a week. And, the same thing with writers doing that with books. And I really believe that there's something to this, that immersing yourself in that environment, just complete focus, complete dedication, nothing else on your mind. You're not distracted by Facebook. You're not distracted by the people around you. It's just you and the passion and the creative process, and giving yourself space to actually go through that creative process and not letting yourself get interrupted. Now, there's always the question of food and water, and you know, how much do you really need over the course of that time period? I know there have been musicians who have talked about how they've gone days without food and water while they're writing. And I'm not going to say that there's one thing set in stone, but I do know there's a lot of research out there. Um, you know, obviously, there's research that says how much food and water you need to survive, or else you don't. You just don't live any longer. And then there's some people who are somehow finding a way to survive without food and water. And I don't really know what the right answer is. I don't know if it's possible. But what I do know is there are examples that are seeming to prove that it is possible. And to be honest, that's really where all of this really comes from, is all the examples that I've seen of people who have been extremely, extremely powerful at what they do. And I know it doesn't come from just doing things part-time. I know that the only way that someone gets really, really good at something is just focusing obsessively on it for very long periods of time. Obsession, right? And obsession gets labeled in this world. It gets labeled, crazy, gets labeled insane. But what it really is to me is dedication. Okay, so it's dedication to what it is that you want to create in the world. And there's no better thing that you can do for yourself than to fully engage in your passion. Now, obviously, your circumstances in life are going to dictate, to what extent you can really immerse yourself in this kind of experience. And it does require some planning in advance. So I don't suggest that anyone just jumps into this without any sort of strategy, any sort of plan in mind ahead of time. Highly, highly recommend that you sort this out, and you consult with a doctor or consult with a nutritionist to find out what's best for you and to see what you can really create, what kind of space you can really create for yourself. So a big passion of mine is to take various different topics that I enjoy and explore them for very long periods of time. So hours and hours and hours of just studying and studying and researching and doing things. Because that's honestly where I believe all of the lessons that we learn, all the growth that we experience really comes from taking that understanding and applying it to our actual, just applying it to the real practicality of the matter. So whatever it is that we're looking to do, if we're looking to become a great athlete, studying the tapes, studying the strategies and um, the ways of shooting a basketball, just learning and listening to audios and videos, things that teach you how to become the best basketball player. It's not going to really do you much unless you're really putting in the time on the court and developing yourself as a player. And so ultimately, this whole idea, this whole concept of, going really long periods of time and getting into a state of flow, because that's ultimately why I believe in this process so strongly. I'm not sure if you've ever experienced it, but I have a good sense that at some point in your life, you have been totally connected to what you're doing and your thoughts have vanished. You haven't been thinking about what you're doing, and it just comes totally naturally. That's, flow. And there's been a lot written about flow and how to get into that state and what it actually is, what's happening neurologically in your brain. But beyond all that, I just want to examine, you know, what happens when you get into flow and how that actually changes your productivity. Now, from my experience, something extraordinary happens when you enter a state of flow. And let's just say this is productivity and this is time. And as you go further and further, actually, I don't know if this is the right. Let's flip this. Let's flip this. Okay. So let's say this is time, and this is productivity. And this line represents output. So let's say you're going, you're going, you're going, you're going, you're going. And then all of a sudden, you enter flow. And I'm not going to say that it's like just like that, but I will say that the amount of productivity that you experience when you enter flow is something to this degree, right? Something along these lines. And the interesting thing about this is that it wouldn't be possible unless you entered flow to have this significant increase in productivity and this complete connection to the God force, to the Tao, to source, to whatever it is you want to call a higher connection to your higher spirit. I believe that this starts to happen when you enter the flow state. And you enter the flow state, once again, when you've been doing something for a prolonged period of time. And it could be 30 minutes, could be an hour. Generally, for me personally, I found that that's usually the time frame where I enter flow. If I do something nonstop, fully focused for 30 minutes to an hour, something that I'm very passionate about, for example, dancing or running, I literally lose my thinking, my rational thinking, and it becomes a unconscious thinking that is so connected to what I know is possible and what I know is true. And I know that by tapping into this flow state on a regular basis, if not hourly basis, it could create some lasting changes in the lives of myself and the lives of the people who I touch. And so this is really the body of work that really interests me at this point, is just seeing how deep I can really go into flow and how much I can really create from this space, and assisting other people to do the same, helping people create the environment that they need in order to get into the state of flow. Because once again, let's be honest, in order to get into this state on a consistent basis, you definitely need to create the space. So let me just go to new. So the space is just, this is your bubble, and distractions are outside of it. And you say that when I'm in this bubble, when I'm in here, I am fully focused on what I'm focusing on. Orange represents your passion. So you're able to explore it creatively. You're able to understand it on a deeper level. You're able to play with all the intricacies. You're able to enter that state of flow. And as a result of entering that state of flow, you're able to access a lot more of your potential. You know, a deeper understanding of yourself and a deeper expression of yourself. And so this is what I'm going to continue to pursue. This is what I'm going to continue to play with, is this idea of flow and using the portal theory, which is, you know, in every moment we have these portals that we're choosing to go down. And once again, the longer that we allow ourselves to stay in one portal and not get pulled in other directions by the other distractions that are around us, the more that we're able to have a straight, trance-like flow experience, the longer that will exist, you know, the longer that that experience exists, the deeper into our passion will go. So for you watching this video, I just want to encourage you to find your, whatever it is that you're most passionate about right now in your life, and just commit to spending maybe 1 to 2 hours a day, minimum. 1 to 2 hours per day. Fully immersing yourself in that passion. And I promise you that over the next couple of weeks, you're going to start to not only uncover some amazing things, but you're going to start to transition into spending more time than 1 to 2 hours a day doing what you love and less time doing what you don't love. It's going to become natural. So just trust me on this, and I'm gonna be doing this with you, and I'll definitely be updating you on my progress. So thanks for tuning in. Much appreciation, my friend. If you have any feedback, if you have any comments, if this inspired you in any way, please let me know in the comments below. And also share this with your friends to help them be inspired to continue going down whatever path they want to go down in their life, because it will absolutely pay off by being willing to be laser focused on the path that you most desire to go down. So stay on the path, love yourself through the process, and I'll be talking with you very soon, my friend. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this broadcast, and I'll be speaking with you soon. Peace.